So imagine a perfect murder, like absolutely flawless.
Okay, I'm listening.
There's no weapon, right? No forensic evidence, no DNA left behind anywhere.
About a trace.
Exactly. Nothing. And the only thing in the entire world that actually witnessed this crime happen
Yeah,
was a fish in a tank,
a fish.
a literal fish. Now, you know, in the objective reality of the universe, a life was taken, right? We know that. But in the eyes of the law, did that murder actually even happen?
Right, which is, I mean, that's the ultimate question.
It really is. So today, we are taking you all on a deep dive into this. Well, it's just this incredibly mind-bending, multi-layered piece of conceptual art. And it basically proves why truth and proof are like two entirely different things.
Completely different things.
Yeah. And honestly, the wildest part about this entire artwork, the whole thing is entirely inspired by Taylor Swift.
Which, I mean, it sounds like a massive leap,
A
right?
huge leap.
Going from a chart-topping pop star all the way to, like, really dense legal philosophy. But the artist actually took Swift's murder mystery track, No Body, No Crime.
Such a good song.
Right. And they use it as this structural foundation to explore what is genuinely a terrifying gap in our society. Like the gap between what actually happens out in the real world and what our institutions can, physically see.
Exactly.
So we're going to be dissecting the physical artwork itself today, along with this really fascinating series of texts that came with the piece.
Right. So let's put the physical art piece in your mind's eye first, just to set the scene.
Now paint the picture.
So picture the classic scales of justice. You've probably seen them, right?
Yeah.
The ones held by that blindfolded statue of Lady Justice outside a courthouse.
Usually made of like heavy iron or brass or something.
Exactly. Really solid, heavy metal. But in this artwork, the scales are perfectly balanced, but they are made entirely out of transparent glass.
Completely see-through.
Yeah, completely see-through. And you look at the pan on the left side, and it is completely empty. And then you look at the pan on the right, and it's also empty.
I love that visual.
Yeah.
Because those empty see-through scales, it's basically the physical manifestation of the phrase, no body, no crime.
Right.
It just immediately forces you, as the viewer,
Right.
to confront this concept of an illusion. But, it isn't a traditional illusion.
No, it's not. It's not like a magician pulling a velvet sheet off a birdcage and like making it vanish into thin air to fool a crowd.
Right, it's not a magic trick.
Exactly. The illusion here is about tricking a bureaucracy. It's about convincing an entire system that a body or, an event or even a truth just never existed in the first place.
Yeah.
You aren't fooling the human eye here. You are actively exploiting the blind spots of the system's paperwork.
Which actually brings us to the first piece of text that accompanies the art. It's a section titled The Bridge.
Oh, like a song bridge.
Exactly. It's a very clever nod to the structure of a Taylor Swift song. But it serves as this poetic entry point into the philosophy.
Right.
And the very first line of it just immediately establishes the stakes. It says, no body, no crime, legality replacing truth.
Wow.
Yeah, and then it immediately references a legal philosopher named Kelsen, and it states that Kelsen knew innocence is often procedural.
Okay, let's unpack this because innocence is procedural well, it's deeply unsettling.
It really is.
Because it means that inside a courtroom, innocence doesn't actually mean your hands are clean.
Right.
Like, you could be absolutely guilty of a horrific act in reality. But if the investigating officer, say, forgets to sign a specific form...
Or uses the wrong color ink, either.
Yeah. Or if a piece of evidence is collected without the proper warrant, right, the procedure is broken. And by default of that broken process, you are just deemed innocent.
Because the system, it has these highly, highly specific rules for how reality is even allowed to be introduced into it.
It needs standardization.
It's exactly, standardization. And if the chaotic, messy reality of the human world doesn't fit neatly into those standardized rules, the system simply refuses to acknowledge it exists.
It just looks the other way.
Right. And the bridge text actually captures this mechanism with a really dark, evocative line. It says, "The law punishes proofs, not ghosts beneath the lake."
The ghost beneath the lake.
Yeah.
It is such a chilling image. And it brings you right back to the narrative of the Taylor Swift song, right? Like the cheating husband, the hidden crime, the dark water.
Exactly.
In objective reality, there is a ghost down there. Something terrible definitely occurred.
Right, a reality exists.
But the law doesn't have a scuba suit.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right. Like, it doesn't dive into the murky depths of moral truth. It basically only has a desk, a magnifying glass, and like an intake tray for documents.
It's waiting for the paperwork.
Exactly, which is how the text arrives at this insane claim that a single missing document can erase an entire murder.
And just the sheer fragility of that is astounding to me.
Yeah.
Like, an entire human life is extinguished. And the entirety of that massive tragic event can be completely deleted from the official record simply because, well, the required paperwork didn't survive the filing process.
It's crazy.
The text frames this with this really profound contrast. It says, justice streams morally, systems operate formally.
Okay, wait. I kind of have to push back on the implication here, though.
Oh, go for it.
Does this mean our entire justice system is basically just a giant, heartless spreadsheet? Like, are we just feeding human lives into this machine that has absolutely zero moral compass, where a typo literally matters more than a murder?
What's fascinating here is that we kind of have to lean into the discomfort of that reality, because the text actually addresses your exact skepticism in the very next breath.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it states, she hides the body and the norm remains intact. The courtroom asks what can be demonstrated, never what happened.
Never what happened. Wow.
Right. And it isn't that the system is intentionally malicious, or evil. It's just that the system is entirely constrained by its own architecture.
It has limits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To process thousands and thousands of cases, it requires rules.
Yeah.
It literally cannot care about what happened if what happened cannot be proven.
Right, because otherwise...
It ceases to be a legal system entirely, and it just becomes like a mob operating on neighborhood rumors.
Okay, so the blindness is a built-in feature, not a bug.
Exactly.
And the bridge concludes with this absolute gut punch to summarize it all. It says, no body, no crime is positivism wearing lipstick and rubber gloves.
Yeah, that line is incredible, because legal positivism is the underlying philosophy here.
Right.
In layman's terms, positivism is basically just the idea that the law is a set of rules constructed by human beings. It has nothing to do with, like, divine moral truths or natural ethics.
It's just rule.
Right. A law is just a rule written on a piece of paper. The courtroom is this highly controlled, positivist environment. It does not look at the bleeding, messy reality of the street. It only looks at the sanitized evidence presented on the table.
And the metaphor of the lipstick and rubber gloves is just so vivid for that.
Right.
Because the lipstick represents the presentation, right? Like the narrative drama, the performance of the trial lawyers, or even the catchy hook of the pop song.
Exact.
But the rubber gloves, that is the sterile, calculated cleanup. It's the absolute sterilization of messy human truth. Like, if you wear rubber gloves, you leave no fingerprints.
And to the positivist system, if there are no fingerprints, you were never even in the room.
Man. But, poetry and metaphors only take us so far.
Sure.
The question the artwork poses next is how this philosophy actually plays out in the sterile halls of an institution.
Right.
Like, if a museum curator or an Ivy League law professor looks at these empty glass scales, do they see the tragic ghosts beneath the lake, or do they just see a math equation that balances perfectly?
And the artist actually gives us those exact perspectives in the next set of text.
Oh, the notes.
Yeah, we get a curator's note and an Ivy League note. And the curator's note strips away all the poetry completely.
Very straightforward.
Very. It states plainly that the glass scales represent a system that weighs only what can be presented before it. The curator writes, when evidence disappears, truth may remain present while becoming legally weightless.
Legally weightless.
Yeah.
I mean, the truth is still sitting right there. It has mass, it has gravity in the physical world, but when you place it on those literal glass scales of justice, the pans don't dip by a single millimeter.
Because the scales are calibrated to only register the weight of proof.
Right.
And then the Ivy League note takes that concept and wraps it in this super thick layer of dense clinical academic framework.
Of course they do.
They even introduce a term for this phenomenon. They call it evidentiary ontological reductionism, or EOR. Yeah. And the artist actually throws in this brilliant bit of satire here, writing, acronyms are important. Without them, academic language would collapse into readability.
Okay, that is hilarious. It's so true.
It is sharp satire. But the concept behind EOR is fundamentally terrifying.
Yeah, let's break that down.
Right, so let's look at the words. Ontological reality simply refers to what actually exists, the physical state of the universe.
Like, if a tree falls in the woods, that is an ontological reality.
Exactly. And reductionism is the act of shrinking something down. So evidentiary ontological reductionism is described as a phenomenon in which procedural systems progressively substitute demonstrable facts for ontological realities.
So it basically shrinks existence down to only what can be proven.
Exactly.
And the Ivy League note explains that within an EOR environment, events lacking evidentiary persistence become functionally indistinguishable from events that never occurred.
Evidentiary persistence.
Meaning, if your proof doesn't survive, like if the document burns in a fire, if the video file corrupts, or even if the witness just forgets, the event is literally erased from the system's memory.
It's gone. And think
Mm-hmm.
about the times you've, like, tried to dispute a charge on your credit card
Oh,
or
no.
tried to return a defective item to a store without the receipt. You know you didn't authorize that charge.
Right.
The objective truth of the universe is that you did not buy that item.
Hmm.
But the bank system requires evidentiary persistence.
They need the paperwork.
Right. Without the receipt, your reality is totally irrelevant. The system substituting its lack of proof for the actual reality of your situation, that is EOR in action.
You know what it feels like? It's the exact feeling of emptying the trash bin on your computer.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right. Like imagine you spend hours typing up a crucial document. You vividly remember the keystrokes. You remember like drinking a cup of coffee while you wrote the second paragraph.
Yeah, you lived it.
But then you accidentally delete the file and empty the trash bin. If you try to search for it, the computer's operating system will insist with absolute mathematical certainty that the document never existed.
It happened.
You can scream at the screen, you can say, I know it was there, but the computer operates on functional reality.
Right.
Without the file, it is functionally indistinguishable from a document you never typed. The system is entirely deaf to your memory.
Exactly. The computer's search function is the courtroom. It only knows what it can retrieve.
Yep.
And the Ivy League note actually backs this up with a highly specific satirical data point. It mentions this double one-eyed survey of 10,000 legal fictions.
A double one-eyed survey.
Yeah, and this survey supposedly revealed that 83.7% of participants intuitively equated the absence of proof with the absence of occurrence.
A double one-eyed survey. I mean, that phrasing alone is incredible. It implies the system is looking at the world with one eye closed twice.
Right, it's willfully blinding itself.
Completely. But, that 83.7% statistic, even as a piece of conceptual fiction, it really taps into something very real about human psychology.
Oh, definitely.
Like, we deeply want the world to be orderly. If we cannot see the physical proof of a crime, it's honestly much more comforting to just assume the crime never happened at all.
And that psychological comfort is exactly what the system is striving for on a macro level. The Ivy League note poses this pivotal question.
What is it?
It asks, is justice actually a truth-seeking mechanism, or is it merely a coherence-preserving information architecture?
Coherence-preserving information architecture. Wow.
Yeah.
That changes the entire definition of what a court is supposed to be. It means the goal isn't to, uncover the deep, dark secrets of the universe.
Not at all.
The goal is just to make sure the paperwork matches up so the institutional filing cabinet doesn't look messy.
Exactly. And if the primary goal is maintaining a coherent system, then ignoring an unprovable truth is not a failure. It's a necessary function.
It's working as intended.
Right. Because unresolved data, like the rumor of a murder without a body, is a direct threat to the architecture. It causes systemic stress.
It clogs up the system.
Yeah. And that is why the empty glass pans on the scale are not displaying neutrality or fairness. As the note says, they're displaying epistemic convergence.
Okay, epistemic convergence. So the system's knowledge and the available physical proof have essentially converged at zero.
Yes.
The pan on the left has no proof. The pan on the right has no proof. Both sides agree there is absolutely nothing to see here. The system breathes a massive sigh of relief and just goes to sleep.
The file is closed. The system is at peace, entirely coherent, even if reality is literally screaming outside the courtroom doors.
It is incredibly heavy, dense Ivy League stuff. But I gotta say, my absolute favorite part of this entire deep dive is how the artist realizes that you don't need a PhD in legal philosophy to understand this horror.
Right, exactly.
You just need to have lived in the real world. Which brings us right out of the ivory tower and into the final perspective provided in the sources, which is the barfly note.
Yes. The barfly note is where the rubber finally meets the road.
And I love this one.
It grounds this massive abstract concept and translates it perfectly for, like, an average person sitting on a bar stool holding a pint of beer. It strips away all that jargon of epistemic convergence in EOR.
Here's where it gets really interesting because it sets up the most beautifully absurd scenario. It says, suppose somebody commits the perfect murder And the only witness is a fish.
Which is just so funny. And the note continues, congratulations, the thug is now carrying the entire justice system on its shoulders.
The absurdity of the fish is exactly what makes it so brilliant, because it distills the entire flaw of our systems down to its absolute core.
Yeah.
Like, in objective reality, the fish saw the murder. The truth of the event is locked inside that little tank. But because a fish cannot fill out a police report,
It can't take the stand.
right, it can't provide sworn testimony, reality is completely severed from the legal system.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the glass scales remain perfectly balanced. But they aren't balanced because justice is blind, and they aren't balanced because justice is fair.
Mm-hmm.
They're balanced simply because the system is paralyzed by its own requirement for demonstration. Nobody can prove anything, so the system assumes nothing happened.
It's so bleak. And the barfly note ends with what is arguably the best, most haunting summary of the entire artwork. It says, "Truth is still sitting in the room. It just forgot to bring paperwork."
It makes you chuckle.
Great.
But the implications are staggering.
Seriously.
Because the truth didn't evaporate, it didn't cease to exist, it is sitting right there on the bar stool next to you.
Yeah.
But because it doesn't have a stamped form in triplicate, the bartender, which in this case represents the institutions that govern our lives, just refuses to serve it.
It is quite a journey the artist took us on. I mean, we started with a Taylor Swift song about a cheating husband. That inspired the visual of these transparent, empty glass scales. We waded through the poetry of procedural innocence and, ghosts hiding in lakes.
Yep.
We tackled the dense academic thicket of shrinking reality down to only what can be proven. And we ended up in a bar, basically realizing that our institutions will completely ignore the truth if it doesn't have the right ID.
It forces a hard look at the civilization we've built, honestly. We have engineered a society that implicitly trusts the reflection in the mirror more than the physical object standing right in front of it.
We trust the documented record of the event vastly more than the actual event itself.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, as you just go about your day? Think about how much of your daily life is governed by these invisible glass scale.
Your whole life, really.
Think about your credit score, your medical records, an HR complaint at work. Your reality relies almost entirely on what can be documented rather than what is genuinely true.
Right.
Like, if you are experiencing terrible physical pain, but the doctor's tests show up negative, in the eyes of the medical system, your pain does not exist. It is legally weightless.
That's a great example.
Or if a massive mistake is made at your company, but the paperwork covers it up flawlessly, did the mistake actually happen? We are constantly navigating this world of epistemic convergence, desperately trying to make sure our personal truth is heavy enough to register on the scales.
And if we extrapolate that to its logical conclusion, we're left with a deeply unsettling final thought.
What's that?
Well, the text established that a missing document can erase an entire murder, right?
Yeah.
It established that truth is completely dependent on evidentiary persistence. The system only eats paperwork. But what happens when we reach a point which, by the way, we are rapidly approaching with modern technology, where someone learns how to manufacture perfect, undetectable paperwork for something that never happened?
Oh, wow. Synthetic proof.
Exactly. If the scales only weigh documents, and the system literally cannot tell the difference between objective truth and perfectly formatted proof, what happens when bad actors flood the intake tray with fabricated evidence?
Oh, my God.
Does that synthetic, manufactured proof automatically become our new undeniable reality?
Wow. That is a terrifying thought to leave you with. If truth without paperwork ceases to exist, then paperwork without truth might just become the new reality.
Yeah.
We will let you mull that over. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we will catch you on the next one.